So here we have the Alteryx designer itself. So a quick tour of the designer itself. So along the top here, you've got the tools that you're going to be using. So these are all drag and drop tools set out into various different palettes. So obviously from connecting to your different data sources, to doing that data cleansing, data preparation side, joining data in a variety of different ways, and a whole host of other functions. The example I'm going to go through today is going to be quite a typical one, quite a simple one. We're going to be connecting to some transactional data and some customer data. And if we're going to start working on this data, we need this data all in one single relevant place. So I'm going to combine this data in an automated way where once I've built out the workflow, I can just run this when I want to and not have to worry about that manual process again. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to connect to a data source. So I'm going to bring on the input data tool. And I'm just going to drag that onto the canvas here. And as soon as I drop that onto the canvas, I can see that the configuration window here on the left changes. And here I can start connecting to my different data sources. So it might be that I'm connecting to a flat file, or I might be connecting to a database, so SQL Server, Oracle, for example, or I can connect to another database by ODB, ODBC, or I can connect to a data source that I've connected to recently. So let's first of all connect to this customer file here. As soon as I connect to that file, I can see a quick snapshot of what that data looks like. So I can check, what fields do I have in this data source? Am I connecting to the right thing that I'm expecting to here? Now I'm going to connect to my second data source. And I will just point out this connectors palette here. If you are looking to connect to a cloud source, we have some native connectors here. Alternatively, if we don't have a native connector, then you can use the download tool to connect to any open API that you're looking to connect to. We'll keep it nice and simple, and we'll just bring on another flat file. And here I'm going to connect to another recently connected file, which is our transactions. I also should have worn my glasses today. So the first thing I might want to do is I might want to go into a preparation palette and just do some quick changes to the data. So I'm going to bring on a select tool. And what the select tool is going to allow me to do is allow me to have a look through my data types, rename any particular fields, and maybe deselect anything that I'm not interested in working with. Now, the first thing you'll notice about these select tools is it's showing me that all the data that I'm working with is in string format. And I know we've got some numeric figures here that we're going to want to do some calculations on, so I'm going to need to change those. The reason being we're reading in an XML file and a CSV file which aren't carrying any metadata. So to do that, I can have a look through my data types, and I could manually overwrite those if I wanted to. So here I'm going to change this sales figure into a double. However, if you're working with a lot of different fields, you're not going to want to do that manually. So let's use Alteryx to actually automate this process for us. I'm going to bring on an autofill tool, drop this tool into the middle of these tools. And you can see it just automatically connects around that. Run the workflow through. And now Alteryx is going to automatically assign the best data type according to the fields that it's read through. I can also go through and I can just rename any fields that I want to. So I'm just going to change this customer underscore ID to customer ID. And you can see it's highlighted red where I've made any manual overrides. Now, what you're seeing here is I have read this data now in memory on my machine. So with Alteryx, we're not actually changing any of that source data at this time. So you can chop and change this data up as much as you want, and you're not actually affecting any of that source data. You're only affecting that once you choose to actually write out, and Alteryx is just going to be reading your Windows permissions to understand whether you've got that access rights to read or write from those databases that you're assigned to. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our transform palette. And this is where you're going to be doing those aggregations and pivots to work with your data. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at this customer data here, which is currently all at a transactional level. So we've got multiple lines per customer. And we want to aggregate this up to a customer level to be joined with our customer data. So to do that, I'm going to go to our summarize tool and just drag this on. And what we're going to be doing is saying, I want to select our customer ID, and I want to perform a group by to group our customers together. I also want to get a count of how many times that customer ID comes up. That's going to give me the number of transactions that they've made. we want to get a sum of that sales value, because that's going to give us the total sales. And we might also want to take that product name and let's just concatenate that string together. And then again, if I run the workflow through, we can look at the before and after of each tool. So by clicking on the beforehand, I can see that we've got all that data at a transactional level. But by clicking on the output, I can now see that we've got one line per customer, how many transactions they've made, what that total sales value is, and also the list of all the items that they bought concatenated together. So now the data is in a much better shape for me to actually join together. So to do that, I'm going to go to our join category, and you can see a variety of ways that we can actually join data together, whether it's stacking data on top of each other, whether we're doing a join on a common field, or even some fuzzy matching. So here you might have your Johns and your Jonathans, you might have address data which isn't always going to be identical, and you want to be joining this non-identical information together. For this, we're going to do a simple join. I'm going to bring this onto the canvas, join these two streams together, and then just explain to Alteryx how I want these to be joined. So I know that we've got customer ID in both fields, both sources. It automatically picks up that there's another customer ID. I could change this if I wanted to. And I can also go through and, much like the select tool, just make some edits to my data. So I'm just going to select any duplicate fields. I'm going to run the workflow through, and I can now see that we've got a nice, clean data set where we've got all that customer information from our first file along with that transactional data from our second file. But Alteryx isn't just going to show me the data that actually joined up. Alteryx is also going to show me any data that wasn't able to be joined. So this left-hand node here, coming out on the left, is going to show me any customer information that wasn't able to be matched to the transactional information. And I can see there's no records here, so all of our customers were matched up with the transaction. On the right-hand side, I can see any information from our transactions file that wasn't able to be matched up with our customers. And I can see actually there's quite a few records here, 25 records of customers who have made transactions. For some reason, we don't have a customer name for these people. So this gives us the opportunity to maybe do some further cleansing on that data, maybe automatically email somebody who actually owns that database. Either way, Alteryx is being very clear with what's happening to every part of your data. You're not losing any data at any point. And then once you've got your data all in the right place, then you can obviously output this to wherever you want to go to. So you might want to output it to a visualization tool or another piece of software like Data Robot, for example, which we might be doing later on, you never know. But each time you run this workflow, you're going to be getting that latest version of this data. So again, whether it's from a database or from a file, from a folder, you can make this as dynamic as you want. And it's going to be running through all those manual processes that people normally have to do. Those pivots, those aggregations, those transformations, that cleansing, that validation, and putting the data in the right space where you need it, in the right shape with your confidence for you to start working with and getting those further insights. So that's all I'm going to show you today. There's obviously a lot more in terms of the functionality of the product, from spatial analytics to data investigation to reporting and annotation. But here we're going to keep it nice and simple.